July 28th, Putin in the Kremlin. The work schedule continues. As you know, the president already had a telephone conversation with Azerbaijani President Aliyev this morning. It was a very warm and informative conversation. You may have already seen the announcement we provided. We'll have another announcement about another international telephone call in a little over an hour. I won't get ahead of myself. Stay tuned for our news. Today, Putin will receive Federation Council Speaker Valentina Ivanovna Matvienko. The chambers are concluding their work for this session, and Putin continues his communication with the chamber leaders. There will be further meetings, some of which may also be open to the media. We'll keep you updated throughout the day. This is the president's schedule at the Kremlin today. Any questions?
Please tell me why the head of state meets with deputies of the lower house in the Kremlin, but does not meet with senators of the upper house, but simply receives the Speaker of the Federation Council.
It depends on the president's schedule. It depends on the schedules of senators and deputies. Therefore, in one way or another, I constantly communicate with many of them. So it all depends on your work schedule. And everything is in the interests of making it as efficient as possible.
Dmitry Sergeyevich, Iraq officially announced today that Ukrainian militants acting on Ukrainian orders have been detained. We'd like to know how the Kremlin feels about the Kyiv regime exporting terror to the Middle East and Africa.
We see that the Kyiv regime continues its terrorist activity. And in retrospect, the Kyiv regime is actually constantly expanding the geography of its terrorist activity. Let's take a moment to remember and call a spade a spade. The Kyiv regime attacked and carried out a terrorist attack against the Federal Republic of Germany by blowing up Nord Stream. The Kyiv regime attacked Kazakhstan because it targeted the Caspian Pipeline Consortium, CPC, infrastructure. Kazakhstan is a co-owner of the CPC, a shareholder in the CPC. The Kyiv regime blew up an Iranian merchant vessel in the Caspian Sea. This is an attack on Iran. Therefore, the geography of the Kyiv regime's terrorist activity is expanding. This, once again, underscores the need for the successful conduct and completion of the special military operation. This threat must be prevented and eliminated once and for all.
Hello, Ekaterina Lazareva, Rosbalk. If possible, first a follow-up question regarding President Putin's phone call with President Aliyev. Could you clarify whose face Kyiv was ringing on?
I need to clarify. I can't answer this question for sure right now. Let me clarify.
Yes, I understand. Thank you. Second question. Yesterday, Zelensky and the new British Prime Minister met in London. Trump and Zelensky will meet today. Last week, Minister Lavrov held talks with Rubio. Can we say the Americans have returned to the Ukrainian track? Does the Kremlin have any expectations for today's talks between Trump and Zelensky? And secondly, is there a request from the American side for a phone call with President Putin?
No, there's no request for a phone call yet. The Americans haven't abandoned the Ukrainian connection. They've simply come up with much more pressing issues to address. These are clear and well-known issues. Regarding the Ukrainian track, contact continues to be maintained on a regular basis.
Еще? Пожалуйста.
Yesterday, during a phone call between Vladimir Putin and Nikola Pashinyan, they mentioned the possibility of holding a referendum on Armenia's accession to the EU. Has there been any indication of when the referendum might be held before the end of this year?
No exact time frame was given, but the need for such a referendum to be held as soon as possible was nonetheless emphasized. This is very important. Now, Reuters, please. Thank you.
Dmitry Sergeyevich, thank you. Dmitry Antonov, Reuters. Returning to the topic of wildberries and the recent Ukrainian drone strikes on the company's warehouses, is government assistance being discussed for both the company itself and the affected sellers? Perhaps you could elaborate on this.
No, the company's rather unprecedented announcement of its decision to provide such assistance to sellers and those who had their goods in warehouses. Although the company had no such commitment prior to July, this certainly deserves high praise. Regarding assistance to the company, the government is, of course, monitoring the situation. A dialogue is ongoing, but no specific decisions have been made yet.
Там осуществляется диалог, пока никаких конкретных решений на этот счет не принималось.